Alright, today I'm going to show you how to test various product interfaces with Docs as Tests tooling. I'm specifically going to show you with Doc Detective because I can show you a lot of different stuff pretty quickly. Let's get to it. Here, we have a markdown procedure for using a locally hosted graphical user interface, or GUI. The procedure is pretty simple. Open up the GUI, find some text on screen, and then click option 1. There's also a broken image reference because proof.png doesn't exist yet. Let's fix that. I'm going to run Doc Detective against local GUI.md, what we're looking at right here. And what's going to happen is the tool is going to look at the markdown file and look at the syntax of the markdown to determine all the different things it should do, like navigating to that URL, finding that heading, and clicking option 1, then taking the screenshot. Let's refresh the preview of the markdown right now so we can see the final result. Boom! There's the screenshot. It didn't exist before, it does now. And not only that, but we can look back at the test results and see that each and every step passed with details about the execution of that test. But, Manny, you say, this is a highly synthetic example. What about something closer to a typical procedure? I'm glad you asked. Let's search for some cats. I like cats. I want to help people get more information about cats, maybe look at some pretty kitty pictures, because the cats make the internet go round. So here, this procedure is saying go to DuckDuckGo, enter American Shorthair Kittens, press enter, and save a screenshot of the results. Here, because I'm on spotty internet right now, I'm hard coding a 10-second wait just to make sure that I get all of those cat pictures for this demo. Let's run it. And note that we already have a screenshot this time around. Now, just like last time, the tool is going to look at the markdown file, extract all of the tests possible based on the detected syntax, navigate through, and would you look at that, all sorts of cats. I love it. It makes me feel so warm and fuzzy, and it's going to capture a screenshot once it's done with the wait, and yay! It's done, but oh no, this failed. Well, guess what? It was supposed to. Every other test passed. We watched it pass. It did everything it was supposed to. It even saved the screenshot, but it did a comparison between the newly captured screenshot and the existing one to see if there were visual differences. This is called visual regression testing. And it determined that there was a 23.19% difference between the screenshots. This is indicative of when a UI changes and the existing screenshots are out of date. This tool let us not only check if the existing screenshot was still accurate, but when it wasn't, it captured a new one, so we didn't have to go back and do it manually ourselves. Now, there are other ways to go about this sort of testing. If you don't want to detect tests, you can specify them in line. So here we want to say, oh hey, let's check this link. Great, let's check this URL to make sure that they're valid and accurate and they resolve correctly. Here we want to go to this URL, spinning up a web browser and navigating there. And while we're there, we're going to find an element that matches this text and then take a screenshot just like we have before. I'm not going to run this test. You've already seen what that looks like. I just wanted to give you an idea of what inline tests can do and how they look. Also, you can mix inline and detected tests, like we just saw with the kitten search and that hard-coded 10-second wait. Now, this is a lot of GUIs, user interfaces, or graphical interfaces, but there are other interfaces like APIs. We can do API testing, where here we're going to load some secrets from into environment variables from file. We're going to load user and job secrets on the fly at runtime, and we're going to expect that the API request to this locally hosted server is going to return name of John Doe and job of software engineer. But then for our next test, we're going to send a request of first and last name George Bluth with an ID 1. We're going to make sure that it echoes back the first and last name, but we're going to capture the ID field of the response and set that to an ID variable. This is similar to if you needed to get an ID of a resource for a REST API, or if you needed to do authentication, such as generating a bearer token, you can capture that value and use it in subsequent steps to authenticate your API. Here, we're going to use the ID value in the URL, but it's the same idea. Let's see how this looks. So HTTP spec YAML, passing it into Doc Detective. It's going to take a moment. Oh, hey, that moment was fast. Let's look at the results. So we can see that we successfully set the variables. We can see that the first request did indeed return John Doe and software engineer, loaded from environment variables. Here for the second request, we see that it indeed returned George Bluth, and that we captured the ID we set the ID variable from the response body value, and that where it was $ID1, it substituted it on the fly to the ID value of 1. Also, we saved this response to a path, just like the visual regression testing that we did with the kitten images. We can do response regression testing from the API, so that if there are unexpected changes to the API's response, that could be indicative of either stale documentation that wasn't updated correctly, or of an unexpected product change. In either case, there's something worth investigating, and this tooling can help you do it proactively. Now, in addition to GUIs and APIs, you can also test CLIs, or shell commands, whether that's bash or PowerShell or whatever it is. Here, we're going to run a Docker command, Docker's hello world, and we're going to make sure that it outputs the text hello from Docker. And we're going to run that right here, Docker hello, and it's only going to take a moment, and boom, it's done. Let's take a look at the result. Here, we can see that indeed it had an exit code of 0, which means that it completed successfully, and the response included hello from Docker. So we consider that a successful outcome. We've tested GUIs, APIs, and CLIs right here in just these few minutes. There is so much more that you can do. You can test your SDKs, you can test your code, inline code blocks in Markdown or whatever, AsciiDoc or RST or anything else. There is so much that we can do. This is just the tip of the iceberg.